Brenner coming to you. Our daily live Google Hangout, which is at what time, Eddie? 10:30 Eastern. I think we do it every day. Yeah, 10:30 Eastern. Pistol Pete is not in with us today, buddy. He's got a terrible migraine, no doubt. He's absolutely curled up and been in pain since yesterday afternoon. So we're going to pull this one through. Jordan Sharp is joining me, and Jordan, how's everything going in your neck of the woods?
Pretty good, Mike. How about you, buddy? We've got a big slate of NBA to talk about tonight. I'm happy to fill in for my buddy Pistol Pete here. Try to get the listeners and viewers some winning picks here. Beat the bookie time on Wednesday here, middle of the week.
I'm telling you, and it's getting down to that crunch time. NBA is a little difficult right now.
Yes.
I just, there's some teams you know that they need for positioning. They need to win. Had a good call last night on Golden State, but, had a terrible call on Brooklyn, which I had no business betting two shitty teams, even though they're both playing very well. Philadelphia, though, and again, I'm a Sixers fan. I bleed the red and blue, but I have not I did not see this coming, the consistency. What do you think about these Sixers who have been really, really ATS machine all year?
If you want to jump right on the Sixers, I had them listed as one of the things I wanted to talk about today. So I'm glad you're jumping right in on these Philadelphia 76ers. I'm amazed that I'm not amazed at the Nets playing hard because they don't have their first round pick. They have nothing to tank for. The Sixers, though, are kind of that team that you thought maybe would, they're shutting down Embiid. They're not, not going to bring back any of their veterans really. They seem like they're tanking it. They're extremely competitive. They're doing it with defense too, which I think is something that we need to take a look at here tonight against this Hawks team that's also doing it with defense. Finally found their defense after a whole 2 months of just not playing it at all. I know Millsap's out tonight, but I think Bazemore's going to be back tonight. Line's looking a little tasty on an underplay at 209. I'm extremely intrigued by that here with one of the early games. I don't know what your thoughts are on Atlanta and Philly tonight.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I wanted to ask you something as far as with your experience, Jordan, when it gets down to 7 and 8 games left, again, like we talked about, a difficult time to kind of, you got to have that feel. Some people like to just lay off. Do you think the totals, though, are something that are more predictable as you get down to these 7? You do, okay?
Yes. Oh, yeah. At this point of the season, I wrote about this a little bit last Friday, and you can check that out. It's a nice feature on SBR, and it covers more of the last week of the season on totals and how the over kind of these guys get into vacation mode. We all kind of throw it in. Everybody there at SBR, everybody I know kind of cashes it in the week before they go on vacation. It's the same thing in the NBA. But right now, I think we're kind of seeing a little bit more towards under trends. Like these teams are facing each other for the 3rd and 4th time in some instances when they're in the same conference. That usually lends to lower scores just because they know their guys, they know their offensive sets, they know their tendencies and whatnot. So we're kind of that's how I'm kind of playing this last part of the NBA season because, like you said, man, I've been real up and down here the last 2-3 weeks as well, and it seems like I get way better return on investment on my totals than I do on any of my first half spreads, full game spreads, anything like that. So that's kind of how I'm betting it right now.
Okay, good stuff. Good insight there. Yeah, last night, Philadelphia, they just continue to get it done. Atlanta, though, this is a team I've had a good call on in the last several years, but this year I've laid off them, and when I have been on them, I've been kind of fading because even if Bazemore plays, I just don't think they've ever recovered from Teague being gone, and when Korver stepped out, even though he was a little bit banged up this year, last year he was a big impact on that team. What's happening, again, and this is my opinion, Jordan, the Dwight Howard effect is taking place. Millsap, he wants out. He wants out of there. There's a reason he wants out of there. Dwight Howard, statistically, having a great year. Quiet, but he's still that same guy that for some reason brings something into that locker room that tends to turn into a poison, and it separates a team. It does not bring cohesiveness, and he's proved it everywhere he's gone. Budenholzer, great coach, 16, 17 years on the bench next to Popovich. Come on, that's the guy for the job. Interesting and anxious to see what direction they go after this year. But as for me, even though they found that defense last night, I think that might have been by mistake more than anything. I'm off of those guys. I got to stay the hell off. They are the epitome of a 10-foot pole for me right now. But yeah, playoffs, I can't wait. And the playoffs for me are going to start 3 games out because that's really going to determine positioning and so forth. Teams like Golden State, I don't see them pulling the pedal off the metal, Jordan. They need to keep that thing going until Durant steps back in. Teams like Houston, they know there's no positioning they can change. So last night there was that not sense of urgency, and I don't blame Rudy. I almost called him Rudy Tomjanovich, the old coach, and I love old Rudy Tomjanovich. Yeah,
love the Rudy Tomjanovich shout out here on a Wednesday morning.
Hell yeah, but D'Antoni, he's going to have to start doing something, rotating his players. He's got to start resting these guys. But NBA, we're going to get more into that a little later on. Jordan, any thoughts on college hoops at all? Have you been doing much with that? And then there's these three smaller tournaments: CIT, CBI, and there's another one, the NIT.
Haven't been following the NIT as much, obviously, as the big tournament. I do have some Final Four thoughts here, and I absolutely, and obviously we're a little far away from that. You'll get into that with Pete a little bit later, but I think this Gonzaga South Carolina game could easily be a pretty low scoring game. You're looking at two of the best defenses in the entire country almost. I think it's going to be exact opposite from that other Final Four game, Oregon North Carolina, which I think could easily end in a shootout here. So I think you're going to see two very different games coming up here on Saturday. I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see which one of these four teams advances, or which two of these four teams, advances to the final game. I am very intrigued. Tonight, I haven't even looked at this slate a whole lot. I've heard a lot about Coastal Carolina, though. I know they're kind of a trendy pick. I don't know what your thoughts on them tonight. That's one of the things I've heard a lot, and everybody likes them a lot. But the second tier tournaments haven't been paying too much attention to here recently with the NBA still going on.
Yeah, and there's an interesting thing about the CBI, and last year I was telling Pete, and we were talking about it in depth. Maddie might even remember this. What's strange about that tournament is last week Wyoming, or a couple of days ago, Wyoming played in Coastal Carolina, took a 10-point loss, 91-81. Coastal Carolina came out, owned it from start to finish. Now what they do, Maddie, is they swap. Now they go to the other court, right, and then they play out a best out of series, right? But I think 8's a lot to give to a Coastal Carolina team that, they played each other. They know this team, and they're loaded with confidence right now. That's kind of hard to stop. So that's one. I was on Wyoming. Pete and I both were, and Pete's had a really good read with Wyoming throughout the whole year. I touched him in 4 spots this year and went 3-1. So I thought I had a good read on him as well, but it didn't pan out. Again, sometimes those smaller tournaments go either way. Now, like the Texas A&M Corpus Christi team, by the way, they're playing against Maryland, Baltimore County.
Powerhouse.
The powerhouse.
UMBC.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but those are just teams I have to stay off. I mean, I can tell you the Texas A&M Corpus Christi, they're shooting 50. I mean, they're ranked 50th on offense in the country. 58 is what UMBC is what they call them.
Do you know what their mascot is?
That I do not.
I should know this because I had 2 friends that went there.
A golden retriever.
I think so.
That's what Maddie said. Oh, Jordan got that look like, Maddie looks like he'd lost his mind. So I don't know. I don't know.
I don't even know what their mascot is.
And when we're talking about this college basketball, I'd be remiss if I did not mention once again, say thank you so much to our friends at uwager.eu. They sponsored this bracket tournament contest, and it's really been phenomenal. It's added a lot of different factors, to just instead of just following the tournament. So their lines are awesome. Thank you guys. Awesome job. And, just wanted to put that out there. Those guys have been amazing. Now, I also think that one game in the Final Four is going to be low scoring. I think Gonzaga is going to find a way to match the intensity defensively. And I think in the second half, though, I think is when Gonzaga might be able to run away and get away with the spread, with it still being a small, a score that's not going to be, outrageous. And also, I think a shootout will ensue with North Carolina and Oregon. But I think North Carolina is going to figure that team out before first half, and I think they're going to blow them out in the second half. And that's my opinion on that.
Yeah, I love Frank Martin, but I think South Carolina has finally run up against a team that does everything that they do just a little bit better than them. You know what I mean? Like they've been beating teams with their specialties, and they've been, they've got some breaks, but I think that they finally, Gonzaga, I think, is so focused on finally proving to people that they deserve to be in the conversation as a top-tier basketball program. They've been, given the short end of the stick so many years. They've complained about not getting into the tournament and all this. Now they finally got a really good team. I think they're going to use that, and I agree with you. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a North Carolina Gonzaga finals this year.
And that's what I'm going up. I've already put those picks out there, and I've been a Frank Martin fan since back when he was with Kansas State. He's a tough guy to play for. Reminds me a lot of Bobby Knight in certain ways, but what I saw Jordan after they won that last game, and Didn't think I would see this. I think I saw a team that quenched their thirst. First time they've ever been to a Final Four. And when Frank Martin said, you know what, these guys have been putting up with me. They've had to put up with me. And when they popped the champagne, he let out the big smiles.
Yeah.
I think that team might have let out an exhaust as well. I think they just went, took a big, deep breath, but they're going up against a team that's not satisfied, was #1 in the country, still pissed off about losing to BYU.
Yep.
I got a feeling at the end of the day, they're going to win this thing by double digits. And low-scoring game. Great job by Frank Martin. Will they be back again? Who knows? I don't think it was a fluke. That team believes in themselves. They bought what he was selling, and they've been buying it the whole year. Hats off to them.
They were easily the second best team in the SEC all year. I don't think people can say they didn't see this coming. I think it's a little bit of surprising that they've made it this far, but they're an absolutely very good basketball team. You can't shortchange them at all, but you're right. Gonzaga is just hungry. North Carolina is hungry too after losing in their conference tournament. They want to get back to that finals and win it this time around too. So I think it's just two teams looking at kind of the same thing. Both those #1 seeds, even though they are #1 seeds, they have a little bit of chip on their shoulder, which is kind of strange this time of year. But that's kind of where we're at right now with the Final Four.
There's no doubt. And I also think there's not a whole lot of strength of schedule difference in these teams with everything. Because like you said, South Carolina, SEC ball all year long. Maddie, let's talk. We got
a comment, not so much a question. Archie Wilson, South Carolina is aggressive, maybe found trouble early on.
Ooh, very well said. See, I love that insight. Did you hear that, Jordan?
No, I didn't know. What's up?
That South Carolina is super aggressive, so they might get into some early foul trouble.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because these two teams, I think, both could easily get into foul trouble against each other, So, but yeah, you're going to see both of them, I think, a little overhyped. That's what you see in these games that where they've had a few days off. They're rested. They're ready to go defensively. That's another one of the reasons why I think it's a good bet. But there's a lot of ways I can see South Carolina losing this game. I think that's one of the reasons why I like Gonzaga so much in the under. But yeah, as much as I've only watched South Carolina once or twice in the tournament, so I really don't have a big firm grasp on them at this point. But I do think that's correct. I think they could have both these teams could come out a little bit too amped up, obviously, with the time off and the big stage.
You know what? And the coming out amped up, I think, is going to favor Gonzaga. I really do. And again, with South Carolina just going, oh my God, the Final Four, we made it, we're here. All right, that's their Super Bowl. Gonzaga, it's not their Super Bowl. Bottom line, theirs is the big game. I just really think that first half's where an advantage is as well. I've got them on the half and the game. Last night I had Georgia Tech on the half and the game, and I had that one for a while. I really liked that game. I thought, is it a dangerous spot? No, I know it's Cal State Bakerfield, but that's a situation. I believe, Jordan, the coach let those guys at Georgia Tech know, hey, we might have, failed ourselves by not reaching the big dance, but now this is our big dance, and the strength of schedule really showed on that court last night. That was never a close game, and same thing with TCU. I think once they got over the momentum and the emotion at UCF with Johnny Dawkins doing a great job in his first year with the Knights, all right, but after that first half, all right, Jamie Dixon, who has experience at a level Johnny Dawkins was not able to handle, okay? Jamie Dixon let his team know, okay, now they just drained their tank. Let's go out here second half and let's bury this team. And that's exactly what happened. I think, and I really see a lot of that, some similarities in some different ways. Pete was on a game tonight, in the CIT. It's St. Peter's. Is going up against Furman, baby. They're 7-2 ATS last 9, but Furman, hell, they're 12-4 ATS last 16. Again, I'm not a big small school guy.
Yeah.
But Pistol Pete, he finds his ways with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys, and Pete's been very successful at this, is finding those smaller mid-majors that are, that not a lot of people know about. And I have never seen either of those teams play this year, so I can't even begin to say that I have a lean on that one. But yeah, I mean, he has carved out a niche for himself, especially over the last few weeks doing that. I think that, if he's got a lean on that one, you got to ride him on that because, like you said, he's been pretty successful so far.
Yeah, no doubt. I do a show with Dana Lane, Jordan, and up in a hockey show. And he has really been sharp. Last year also, he really got real. I mean, he was focused and dialed in the second half. But he said to me, and he spoke it very loudly, and it's really amazing, but the hockey lines since March Madness have been really soft. And there's been some really good spots on totals that he showed me. And I'm not exaggerating, Matty Ice. Dana Lane was killing it on these opportunities when he was telling me this is where the NHL is soft because they're not paying attention right now. And they're just bottom line. A lot of the books, they're not big hockey fans. And when a book is not a hockey fan or a fan of any sport, it tends to take away, how strict and how tight they are on certain lines. And I thought that was a good bit of information.
And it's the same thing with those smaller college schools too. It's just not a lot of information known about them. You don't have as many tips on those guys as you do some of these other big schools, especially in the tournaments. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely something you got to look at. Also, we buried the lead, by the way. I think we need to circle back to the NBA because Golden State and San Antonio are playing tonight. And I'm dying to hear what you have to say on that game.
All right, well, who's playing? Which one?
Golden State and San Antonio.
That's tonight, huh?
That's tonight. I need thoughts on this because I have thoughts, and I want to hear your thoughts first before I unveil mine.
Yeah, sound that exciting to me.
No, well, it does. No, a lot of exciting factors in it because here's the deal: you had Cleveland that was in a must-win situation the other night against San Antonio. All right, you've got San Antonio that's just slowly been putting this whole thing together. I'm not a big LaMarcus Aldridge fan. They know deep down he is not at all a locker room leader. That's why he didn't stay in Portland. But Kawhi Leonard and Popovich themselves, all right, inspire me for them to keep that going. All right, last night, Golden State, they were a machine. I felt that coming, and Houston didn't have a lot of positioning. This game has everything to do with the #1 spot. So both teams are going to bring it, and both teams, now, if I'm correct, that's in San Antonio.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I'm just telling you, I got a feeling Golden State keeps it rolling, baby. I think that Cleveland debacle was more of Cleveland not showing up than it was the Spurs, just dominating that team. Now, some people may argue that, but what's the line sitting at right now?
So right now, San Antonio's 4.5 favorite. Total is 209. So first half right now is 2.5 in favor of the San Antonio Spurs. Obviously, Warriors coming off the back-to-back, or else this would probably be closer to a pick 'em, I'm assuming.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I'm just gonna tell you, everything is on the line here. Will Durant be? They've learned to live without Durant the last few games, and I really think without Durant tonight, it's not going to hurt. I'm gonna pull the trigger right now. I'm pulling that trigger. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take the 4.5. Now, I'm interested in this 209.
Yep.
I think that Golden State's the kind of team that gets San Antonio to step up their offense like they don't against anybody else. What are your thoughts on the over on the 209? And what are your thoughts on the first half total? Because there's going to be a hell of a lot of emotion in that first half.
So if you look at San Antonio and depending on who they play, they usually are a good enough team and a well enough coached team to not like play up or down in pace to their opponent. That happens to some bad teams or some middling teams that play like say a Eastern Conference middle tier team plays Houston. They'll play faster because they get sucked into playing their opponent's style of basketball. But then again, you have the Spurs here who really don't care what pace you play at because they're going to continue to play their game. So, and this is where I think this is interesting here, especially like you mentioned the first half at 107.5. I think the San Antonio Spurs come out and punch Golden State in the mouth. Without Kevin Durant, they have the defensive guys to slow this team down. They don't even need Kawhi Leonard to play defense in this one. They can just hide it. They don't have Kevin Durant in this game, which is going to put him on, a guy like Klay Thompson and shut him down tonight. So that means all you have to worry about really is Steph Curry and Draymond Green offensively. I think you could see a very low scoring first half in this one. Even a low-scoring game potentially if San Antonio, like I said, doesn't get sucked into playing Golden State style of game at home. I think it's a possibility that we could really see the under in both the first half and the full game here in this one. I'm a little worried about the full game. It's starting to tick upward a little bit, not enough to scare me off of this one. But you've seen the way that Golden State has played defense this season, even without Kevin Durant, who neither one of the team or Durant have gotten the credit they deserve of how good defensively they have been this season. If we see a playoff style of atmosphere here in San Antonio tonight, especially in that first half, I think the under is a pretty good play here, definitely on that 107.5 number.
Are you going to be joining us on the NBA show later on, which is 12 Eastern? Or no?
I might be able to. I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything about it yet.
Okay, we'll see. All right. Well, if
this was the NBA show,
I like that. We can break this stuff down a little bit more.
You're cordially invited. I just didn't want to give you more on your plate.
All right. Well, didn't mean to put you on the spot.
I got a little one screaming at me too right now. So
taking one for the team. You heard it, viewers. Jordan Sharp's going to be our guest today on the NBA Odds Couple show.
Why not?
He's got the migraine.
I think he's hosting today, isn't he? Jordan.
Yeah, he's hosting. I'm stepping out.
Yeah, you're going to go take a lunch.
Didn't even realize we're not on the NBA odds coverage. I'm screwing this whole call up right now. This is just basketball-related hoops we're talking
And it's
here.
all good. It's all good. We're
fun.
going to get into that women's tennis
It
later
is
on.
yeah, right. Golden State San Antonio is the biggest game of the night, though. So, I mean, at least we have that going for us. We can talk about anything else you guys want now, but that was my 2 cents on that one.
You know what I got to talk about with basketball? I just love this Gino Auriemma, the coach of Connecticut. And I know we're jumping into women's basketball college, but that guy is doing stuff that's never been done. And let's not forget, there's been over a dozen teams have reached out for his services in the NBA, and he has quietly, politely, and very humbly turned those positions down. You got girls that are shooting from three-point land at 60-something% on some of these games that they're in the March Madness for the women's.
Yeah.
112 games, I think, in a row, or 113 the teams won. Do you see any way this team can be stopped? And is this guy a legend or what? This guy's amazing.
I don't think Gino Auriemma, and you're exactly right. He's that coach that when you talk about the Mount Rushmore, so to speak, of coaching that never gets mentioned, but yet should be mentioned if there is ever a Mount Rushmore of college coaching, that he absolutely has to be up there with, with the Bobby Knights, the Coach K's, and everybody else. Like, what he does with that program is absolutely incredible. And I don't think anybody, people like to trash women's basketball all the time. Yeah, it may not be as entertaining to watch as men's basketball because they can't dunk and things like that, but it's still impressive the way that he gets these girls to play the game of basketball. And if you're a basketball purist, I don't think you can hate on it at all, personally, because I absolutely love UConn's women basketball. If you hear the young lady screaming in the background, that's where I hope she plays college basketball when she grows up a little bit.
There you go.
There you go. That's Gino. If you're listening, I got a recruit for you here in about 16 and a half years. Just wait. She's probably going to be over 6 feet tall. So, maybe small forward, power forward type of player. Check it out. We're ready for it.
Well, I got you in because Gino's going to be checking my house first. I got Brianna and Megan.
Oh, that's right. You got older ones here, so
they're a little older, so I'll have Gino ready to go.
Class of 2026 or whatever we're talking there. I'm more 20, class of 2030, 2035 here we're talking. So yeah, we're a little farther down the line.
All right, guys, we're going to get moving on. Any questions, Maddie? Anything else?
Yeah, actually, I have one. Well, not from me. It's from Jake Farmer. It was a good question, I thought. Raptors and Celtics Eastern Conference futures. Raptors plus 1,000 to win. Celtics plus 700.
Okay.
Now half a game ahead.
No, I respect that. I think that is awesome. I don't think the Raptors are going to get it done, guys. I think even Cleveland had a bad Cleveland day can still beat the Raptors. I'm not sold on them. Haven't been. Dwayne Casey, not the coach. Good call. Now, would I go on? What was the other one here? Celtics. Now, hey, I would definitely maybe drop. I would sprinkle a little on Celtics. They're starting to prove what they can do.
I think that the Raptors have been one of the biggest mirages in the NBA this season. They without Kyle Lowry, they're going to go into the playoffs stumbling, out of sync, not really in tune, and that's going to be a big problem for them, especially in a maybe not in a first-round matchup in the East, but a second-round matchup potentially is going to really hurt them. And the Celtics are, I think I've said pretty much since the second half started after the All-Star break, the only team that is probably capable of giving Cleveland maybe a 6-game series. I don't think any team in the East is good enough to push them to 7. But if you can get the Celtics at 7, and there's a way you can hedge out of it by the time they do get to the potentially the Eastern Conference Finals, and you can make a little money on both ends of that. Yeah, that I'd be a little bit more lenient towards of a Celtics futures odd bet here in the Eastern Conference. But yeah, I think Danny Ainge just I don't think he could make this argument, but I think there's an argument to be made that he missed a chance to really compete with Cleveland this year, because I think now we're seeing that Cleveland is obviously not the Cleveland of old. They're rested. Coach Lue is talking about resting his guys regardless of whether they have the number 1 seed or not. Like, this is a team that is not as in sync as they were at this time last year. If Danny Ainge would have went out and got a Blake Griffin at the trade deadline, imagine where we'd be at right now, Mike. Like, you know what I mean? But like, even without that, I think they still could give him a series. But right now, I think
that would have took them over the top, and they should have done it. They should have pursued Blake Griffin. Yeah, because Cleveland, they quenched their thirst last year, guys. That's not going to be a team going to be a threat. I wish there was a prop bet 100% on it. Doesn't matter who the hell wins the East. This thing's freaking over. The champs coming out of the West. No doubt in my mind this year. and the East is just going to be something to bet on to make some money. But there's nobody going to. I wouldn't even bet a futures bet on an East team. And last year, I predicted Cleveland. I was freaking thrown under the bus from people because I took it. And guess what? They ended up winning out. Just no way in hell they can repeat that again. J.R. Smith, that guy's not a threat anyway. Kyle Korver, hurt, overrated anyway. That team is, and Kyrie Irving, I think, is the most overrated point guard ever since LeBron took that team over. All right. He has just literally stolen money. He shows up when he wants to. 8 points the other night. Are you fucking kidding me? But Kyrie Irving is not even a top 5 point guard in the NBA, in my eyes, not whatsoever. They need to. That's a team crumbling, and Kyrie Irving is going to be left out just like Scottie Pippen back in the day. Irving means nothing. And I'm not beating up on Cleveland. Well, yeah, I am. But they're done. They're like Toronto. Tyronn Lue, wrong guy for the job. He got lucky and won a title because of Coach LeBron James last year. He used to be lucky and grateful to get the hell out of the NBA. I'm gonna end on that note. You're getting me fired up. Let's save some of that for the show.
Yeah.
I love this stuff. Jordan, what do you think on Tyronn Lue?
Oh, sorry, buddy. Yeah, like the Cavs at this point, I like Ty Lue. I don't think he was the wrong guy for the job. He may not be the best NBA coach in the league, but I think he was the right guy to get them where they needed to go last year. But it was mostly because LeBron wanted it that way. So, like, let's be honest. Like,
could have gotten him there. That's where, Matty Ice, both of them right there. These two could have got him there.
Yeah, like it was more of like a motivation of the team than anything than that. But Ty Lue is I think a good motivator. I don't know if he's necessarily the best X's and O's guys, but he was the right guy for the right moment. Is he the right guy now? We'll see. Maybe not. You know, that's I think kind of what the discussion is. What we're talking about. Is he the guy that can get them to another championship? And you know, the second one is obviously much harder than the first one. And as we've seen with the Bulls team of yesteryear, the third one is obviously harder than that. So you know, to repeat in this league is extremely difficult. Not many teams have been able to do it. LeBron James is definitely capable of doing it, but we'll see because, like you said, I'm kind of on the train with you of I don't care who gets out of the East because I think whoever gets there, the Warriors, Spurs, maybe even the Clippers as a dark horse team, if they get things together and start playing well again, you know, they're going to win the championship this year.
I think so too. And again, it's no disrespect. Now, LeBron, the way he will be able to win back-to-backs is by switching teams. A good friend of mine, he told me it's all but damn near done. He's not going to be back in Cleveland next year. Not a lot of people are talking about that. He looks around. He sees what's there. He knows now what Kyrie Irving really is. He sees the Kevin Love and all this, and he's around some guys getting older, injury prone. He might need to take his services elsewhere. And from what I'm hearing, that's going to happen. And Dan
LeBron
Gilbert
doesn't need the money.
Yeah. What's that?
LeBron doesn't need the money, too. I think those people discounting this, like, oh, he can stay and make X amount of more dollars in Cleveland. Like, he doesn't need the money. He just wants his legacy. He doesn't care where he gets rings. It's not the game. The game is not what it was 10, 15 years ago, where it's so much, mattered of like, oh, staying with one team and sticking it out and getting. We've seen guys. Free agency is not a bad thing in the NBA. Fans don't like it as much, I think. I think sometimes they look at it as a bad thing. But right now, yeah, LeBron's looking at it as I'm the most powerful man in the NBA for the next 3-5 years. I need to utilize that power, as much as.
And you know where he's going to go? He's going to take it to L.A. He's going to be in L.A. in some form or fashion, whether
maybe.
It's a Clipper or it's a Laker. So, all right, guys, we got to get this wrapped up. I got to go shoot the college show. Jordan, we're going to be joining you later on. Matty Ice will get back home with you. We'll nail those details down.
All right,
guys, viewers, thank you for all of your comments. Tomorrow, Pistol Pete will be back. We'll be jumping right back in, and so keep it coming. And don't forget, tomorrow we have the Q&A at 12:30 Eastern, right, Matty? Yep, 12:30 Eastern tomorrow, the Q&A, and you get all the questions you want. So start thinking about them tonight. It's Final Four Saturday coming up, so let's get ready to cash those tickets. And again, thanks to our friends at uwager.eu for sponsoring the $10,000 bracket contest for March Madness. We appreciate you guys. Jordan, thanks for jumping in. Viewers, thanks for everything. This is the Odds Couple coming to you guys. Let's get it done. And also check out the odds page and make sure when you're watching the videos, subscribe through SBR and also hit that like button. This is the Odds Couple coming to you.